from ABC News Radio, KMET 1490 in Southern California. This is Biz Ninja Entrepreneur Radio with your host, Tyler Jorgensen.
All right, welcome out to Biz Ninja Entrepreneur Radio. I am your host, Tyler Jorgensen, and today we have some of the most dynamic brothers, the dynamic duo of the Bizbros Co. here on the show with us. I was a guest on their show, and usually it goes the other way around where I get to interview people first. So I'm really excited to be able to flip the script on these guys. We've got Luis Daniel and Luis Alfonzo, also known as Luis and Fonz. Welcome out to the show, guys.
Tyler, appreciate it. Thank you so much. First person ever that actually says the full names, by the way. So huge shout out. Thank you.
I'll do it one time, right? And hopefully I got them at least close to right. I'll take a B or better, like at least 80%.
Absolutely.
I'm happy with that.
9.8.
I haven't heard my full name in like 10 years.
The grades. So one of the first things I always ask is, when was the moment you realized, like for the first time, that you were an entrepreneur?
So we grew up playing soccer, and that was the North always, right? So all the decisions were, let's go play pro. For me personally, when I was 18, I came back home from Spain. I was like, this is it. I was an opportunity over there, had an injury, and like, this is it. Very lost in my life. And I'm like, I don't know what to do next. So I went to school. And then as soon as I started business school, I was like, I don't really think that path is for me, because I don't fit in. I don't feel like I fit in. I don't like this. Now what? And, now that this happened 12 years ago, right? Now I recognize that a lot of entrepreneurs start that way. And what I did was I just started trying new things. I knew I wanted to build something. So it started with a blog, started with like somewhat of a life brand called Mass Life that is coming back at some point with a show, by the way. But that's where I started to try different things and find these solutions, and it led to what we do today. So that's personally for me the moment that I'm like, I didn't recognize it at the time, but after years passed, I'm like, that was the moment that everything changed.
Matt was someone similar. Soccer was still the North. I came here to the US. I actually almost made it to a professional team here, didn't get the contract. And I remember that morning after the coach told me, hey, we're not going to sign you on the team, I went back to my girlfriend at that time's house, and it was like 7 a.m. and I was just eating cereal. All of a sudden, I'm like, why is the cereal so salty? And it was just my tears in the cereal, right? And that's when I started thinking, it's like, okay, well, what's next? I've been working my whole life for this. And honestly, we didn't have a background growing up on, like parents that were entrepreneurs. Like I wasn't too involved with that concept. I didn't know exactly. But for me, I knew I didn't want to work for somebody else, right? So it was more like running away from a job, right? And just trying new things. And that's when, we started getting indoctrinated into the entrepreneurial world. We started consuming information, educating ourselves, and then you start realizing the possibilities, things that you can build on your own, and it gets exciting from there on.
It's not uncommon that a lot of top performing athletes don't fit into the corporate environment. I think it's partially because the corporate environment doesn't always reward the people who work the hardest. It doesn't always reward talent fast, right? There's a lot of politics involved instead of just, look, I can score more, right? Like it should be easy. It should be an easy decision. And so the bureaucracy of it is like opposite of what a lot of top performers are used to. And so I think a lot of them are pulled after that time into something more entrepreneurial because of control, right? It's like, man, I'm done getting cut, right? No one's going to cut me ever again. Now I want that control now. Right.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah. And I think the feeling of, you're running around for a few hours every day, chasing a soccer ball, and then you're going to go and like sit down at an office for like 8-9 hours. I was like, oh, that just sounds not very exciting, right? And if I'm being honest, now I sit down for like 8-9 hours, or at least I get like a stand-up desk and I stand in there and do some work. But at least it's what you said. It's something exciting, your own rules, your own possibilities, and that just changes the game, honestly.
When you both finished up soccer, I know you said you started a brand one time. What led you to launching contentisprofit.com? Like, what led you to become the Bizbros?
Yeah. How long do we have? So that was in 2008, right? Like it was like, I wanted to create t-shirts. That was it. I'm like, how do I do? Like, I just look at these pictures. I want to put it on this thing. And at the time I was living in Venezuela, right? opportunity come up where I got a soccer scholarship to come here in 2010. Fonzie got it in 2011. And we're like, okay, opportunity to leave our country, right? It gives me 4 years to figure things out, right? As an international student, there's very limited things that you can do outside of campus, right? You can only work in campus. And I was a student athlete, so that was consuming my life, right? I was still enjoying soccer. My goal was not to go pro at the time, was, hey, let me do this 4 years. During college, I started taking these classes, entrepreneurship, like a business thing, and it just ignites the fire. And we're like, what can we do? So that's where we grabbed this idea of that brand called Mass Life. And it's like, okay, how can we take positive things in the world, things that people are doing that are cool, that are like attractive, awesome, positive, right? How can we transform that into brand? So we ended up launching events at the beach. We did like beach workouts. We did meetups. We did these kind of things like over summer. And it was cool. We had 50 people coming into an event. We had sponsors. And that was kind of like the initial idea of the whole thing. And then later on, we're like, well, now we need a website. Now we need a blog. Now we need to market this thing. How do we actually make money doing this thing, right? And that led to the path of, then we started doing vinyl stickers. We ended up purchasing a little vinyl cutter machine, and we were like door to door, knocking on doors and businesses here, selling those vinyl stickers. That led into screen printing. So we ended up with a screen printing machine in the garage of the Florida house.
Yeah, we realized we needed to sell a lot of stickers to make a profit. And we're like, I think let's try the t-shirts.
Yeah. Then the t-shirts was 90-degree weather in the garage, right? We're like, maybe this is not the nice process that we thought it would be. We didn't know better, right? We didn't know where to find help. We didn't know, like, do we need a warehouse? Like, how do we scale this thing, right? And we're like, sweet, as we were marketing that, we started getting into the digital world, and we're like, how can we create content that supports this business, right? That took legs on their own, and that's where content really became one of the main things that we did. But at the time, we were still freelancers, right? We would go out and be like, hey, we can actually do this email campaign. We can do this other stuff for local businesses. Right. And then when COVID happened in town, we had a few businesses that we were helping, and 80% of our sales out the window in 1 week because all of them closed, right? And we're like, well, what now? And we had 60 days of runway, basically. So I went on freak out mode. Fonzie slapped me twice, and he's like, hey, everybody, all our mentors, our coaches are telling us you guys have to publish. And we were working with content at the time, building these systems for other people, but we weren't doing it for ourselves. And we're like, this is the time to do it. That's when the show was born. And it has evolved into this beautiful thing where we finally were able to hire a team. We're a team of 6 right now. We have a production house. We help other entrepreneurs build their own systems and different things, right? But it came at the expense of being in a very tight situation where we had to pivot and move very quickly after 4 years of those experiences, learning and failing and learning and failing. So that was that's the fast version. Fonzie, fact check? No,
that's pretty good.
Sweet, awesome.
Good job.
Did you really only slap him twice, or was it more or less than 2 times?
I thought about it more, but then I was like, you gotta know how much damage you want to inflict.
That's right. How much is helpful, how much is just for fun.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So you guys launched your Content as Profit show. It's a Bizbros podcast, right? It's your podcast. And you've interviewed a lot of people, right? I've been doing an interview show for almost 10 years or over 10 years. But you guys were doing a lot because mine's only once a week. And I think you guys were publishing a lot. Of all the guests that you've had, who is the most difficult to get on the show?
Oh, man. Honestly, the most difficult one has been Alex Charfen. We tried to reach out to him a few times. And the team would always get back to us, like, send us this, send us that. Yeah, thank you. No, thank you. We're like, oh, man, how do we get to this guy, right? And we had a common friend, right, that she had come to the podcast previously. We realized that she was, like, in his mastermind. And when we talked to her, we're like, hey, would you mind making an introduction? And she's like, absolutely. I would love to do that, right? So right there's a very important lesson, which is take care of your relationships, right? Especially people that are coming to your podcast. Like, you're building a friendship with these people. And she opened the doors to bring Alex Charfen, right? So she put us in a private conversation with him, right? We already went past the gatekeepers. And she was like, Alex, you need to go on their show. It's absolutely amazing. They got great energy. And Alex immediately says, yes, absolutely. Send me some dates. Let's figure it out. And that was an absolute win. It was a great episode.
That's awesome. Who was the interview that was like your biggest sleeper? Like, you didn't expect it to be something and it ended up being amazing.
First one, you. Tyler.
I don't know if that's, now I feel bad. Why didn't you expect it to be more amazing? But no.
Oh, no. So, okay, hold on. Maybe I misunderstood the question.
No, it's okay. You got it right. I'm just being silly.
So kind of like underdog. Like who do we bring in the show that we didn't know what to expect, but it blew our expectations?
That works out fine. Yeah.
Kind of like that.
Thank you for translating, Fonzie.
I think I got it wrong too.
Okay, so like really good, very positive experiences. Chris though was something that we did not expect to have on the show. He's over 1 million subscribers on YouTube. Incredible company, and the way how we were able to get him on the show was very, very interesting, and it was an incredible conversation. And then we find out there's some of his content. He's talking about the Bizbros, which for us was like, oh my goodness, this is incredible, right? And it's because of the brand itself, right? You work with different brands, and that's a very important element. And that was pretty good. Steve Sims, who has worked with Elton John and Elon Musk, that was another incredible interview that we thought it was going to go one way and went the complete opposite way. And it blew all our expectations, right? And these are entrepreneurs that maybe it might be a little bit intimidating to maybe reach out to them. But top initially was Todd Brown. I feel like Todd Brown has been an incredible guest.
Todd Brown brought tears to my eyes. I'm not gonna lie.
Fonzie kept calling him Mr. Todd, and we were like, Fonzie, what's going on, man? You're fangirling so much. But that conversation was incredible. You know, he's one of the OG marketers, and we did not expect that. It was a total leverage move from his book, and he was kind enough to come to the show, and then he gave us a really cool testimonial at the end. So very, very excited for that. So thank you for asking.
Actually, like two other names that come to my mind are Damon Burden. He has an SEO agency. When we got somebody referred it to us, and I was like, okay, well, I don't know exactly who Damon is, but if you're referring him, again, same as Marty, right? We believe you. It's gonna be super cool. And honestly, it was an incredible conversation. Damon is absolutely amazing. We even brought him a second time, right, to keep going the conversation. And then he referred us to somebody else. His name is Joseph Hansen. That, again, we didn't know who Joseph Hansen is. His profile, actually, he doesn't really publish that much on social media. And when we brought him, the conversation was extremely good. We actually brought him a second time again. And with him, it was born the Golden Boulders, right? So whenever somebody says something that is impactful, we are like, wow, that was an incredible Golden Boulder. Just like a Golden Nugget, just way bigger.
I love it. That's been one of the coolest things for me is there's interviews that I think are going to be really amazing, and they're usually good. I've only had a couple that aren't good. But there's some that I'm not sure of that end up being just like life-changing or really powerful. And I mean, as great it is to publish and share, it's amazing how much the interview can help you as the business, like as an entrepreneur, right? With you guys doing the Content as Profit show, with you guys having contentasprofit.com, you've been building, like you mentioned a moment ago, you've been helping entrepreneurs, you've been building systems. What are you guys doing in your business? Like, what is it that you are doing now as entrepreneurs, as business owners, like to help the market?
As Bizbros, the company provides a service. So we multi-purpose content. So we basically help people get their time back, right? We've helped people in different industries, from real estate to healthcare to all the way to coaches and producers, right? Get their time back. There's a gap where the content producer or the business owner starts creating, right? And then we want to do everything, right? In our content, we want to control the message. We want to be that, and it's too tight. And then time is precious. So, you know, what happens is that there's a gap to where finally they decide to hire an internal team, right? So there's a few that understand that media and content is so important. That has to be one of their main things. But there's a gap in between, that there's a disconnect between how do I actually build that process? How do I actually hire those people? Like, what do I actually publish? So that's where we come in, and we help them figure that out. From, hey, we're going to help you do it with you. As far like if you have the capacity and the resources to tackle certain items, by all means. But if you have the resources, we provide basically that in-house team to help them scale their content until they're able to build their internal team. So that has been the natural transition of the service. And we're gearing up to prepare and launch something for the audience that has been with us in Content is Profit for quite a bit, that has been asking a lot of questions on how to run the show, how do we actually monetize the way that you guys do, how do we build these relationships on a consistent manner. So that's coming soon.
It's cool to see what you got, how hard you guys are working. It's always remarkable when people have to pivot, right? So you were doing one thing, you know, revenue dried up and you had to pivot. But then the question is how you handle right after the pivot, right? So people can react, business owners can react quickly. You can stay agile, but then it's like, okay, now can you sustain it? And it looks like you guys are maintaining that. What have been some of the challenges in this new model of your business, and how did you guys overcome them?
The main challenge, right? We're pretty fortunate once we pivot. We found a few clients that they have been pretty faithful, right, to the service. Like they really like it. They like to have their time back, right? And they've stayed with us for a very long time. But then obviously on the back end is the scaling of how much content can the team can handle, right? When does it become too much content? When do we need to hire new editors, right? New designers, new project managers. So that is challenging per se, right? So that's why my brother said at this moment, we're working on, okay, how can we leverage all this information now that we've learned through experience to increase the profits in a way while we are helping a lot of people. And that is the news that is coming. And I mean, obviously by the sound of it, is going to be some sort of cohort or info product, right? We want to guide people to be able to build their own content systems, right? And I think that is, it's a good path because it's going to allow us to scale, right? Get a little bit more money to put back into the business, right? Into the service, and maybe do things a little bit better, right? I think that has been the challenge, that balance right there on, okay, do we grow too fast? Do we hire in here? And those are all lessons that we honestly never learned with any of the other previous businesses that we attempted, right? So we're literally learning as we go. But just like you said, these interviews can be life-changing, right? Because sometimes we have questions and we're like, okay, who can we bring to the podcast that can answer those questions, right? And, one of our earlier hooks on the podcast when we had thoughts about, okay, how can we put together a webinar? It was how to get $100,000 of free mentorship, pretty much, right? It's like start a podcast and start inviting people, right? With great experience. I mean, you have incredible experience growing agencies, right? Scaling teams. So we're like, let's talk to Tyler.
Look, that's the number one reason I started the show almost 11 years ago. I was just looking at it. And it was, what was interesting at the time when I first started the radio show, I was just getting started into e-commerce, and there was a lot that I didn't know. It's amazing how much in just 10 years, how much is available online that wasn't available 10 years ago. I mean, entire Shopify didn't exist, right? Like that's how much things have changed. ClickFunnels didn't exist. These weren't even ideas yet. And so if I was like, man, I really want to get into retail, well, I'd put out a request to get people that could talk to me about retail. And it was a way to learn exactly what you guys are saying. Like, hey, all the things I want to learn, let's get those people on the show. So I ended up having Tim Ferriss on the show, Neil Patel, all these people that I would be really hard to get normally, right? And now they're coming in and just sharing and like giving me 30 minutes of their time. It's amazing, but it's also a platform for them. So it's a great win-win situation.
Exactly. Yeah. Sorry, Tyler, real quick. Like that just reminded me of, we once had a guest and we asked him, what is perfect content for you? And he said, perfect content is the content that helps everybody win. The host, the person that is being interviewed, and the listeners. And personally, I believe podcasting is that, right? Because again, you're getting the mentorship from the person on the other side, or the lessons. The person on the other side is getting the exposure from your platform, and then the audience is getting all the golden boulders in there. So it's a great way.
I love that. All right, one really important question. You both played soccer at a super high level. We'll call it soccer for the sake of this show. What is one lesson from soccer that you can apply into business?
Expect to fail, right? Like I think for me that has been one of them, which at the very beginning I completely ignore, right? Like, so when you get into a game, let's say you're a starter, right? Like obviously you're coming, you're warmed up, you're all hyped up, right? But mistakes are going to happen in the game. We expect that, right? And what happens is like you don't let that play affect the next one. So you're like, okay, sweet, we failed on this play. Like my pass was wrong or my dribble was wrong. I'm just gonna go get the ball. Right? I'm gonna shoot. There's no goal, right? How many times do we shoot on target, right? Obviously, as we get better, right, that those odds are gonna improve. Now, when we started the business, we completely forgot that lesson. And there's gonna be a lot of stuff, right? Like the first time that you go out and knock on a door or cold calling, or you're gonna your first sales call, like there's gonna be a lot of mistakes, right? You are not gonna close that sale, right? And it took us a while to create that connection. We're like, hold on, wait, right? We had this sport, like it happened in every single practice. It happened in every single. Did it stop us? No. Okay, let's translate that into the business now, where it's like, sometimes it can be very intimidating. Jump on that phone call with somebody that you don't know to sell them a service, right? Sometimes it can be very intimidating inviting a podcast host that you maybe admire, right? That person, and you will get no's, and that's okay, because that's always feedback. Those are indicators. Are we moving in the right direction, right? Are we providing the right service? Are we providing the right product? And since we recognize that, or at least on my end, we've taken that feedback and readjusted, right? And then we go again and we readjust again, and then we go again and readjust, and thing has been working out really well. So I don't know that for you.
I mean, that's definitely been one of the top lessons is the amount of mistakes you're gonna do. You can just not stick with those for too long, right? Tamara said, in that game, you make a mistake. Guess what? If the rest of the game you have that mistake in your head, you're not gonna perform. And here is, okay, I do, like my brother says, I learn, and then I go and I execute. The other lesson for me is practice, right? At the end of the day, like somebody that practices once a week, guess what? It's not going to be as good as the person that practices every single day and do their reps. And I think we were pretty fortunate that we had we have a dad that, he would be like, we are going to the field, we're going to practice. And it made it very exciting for us. Some days we didn't want to practice, and he still pushed us to do it. And I think that translates to what we're doing today, right? And guess what? There's some days that you're going to wake up and you're going to be like, oh my gosh, I don't want to do anything. And yes, it's okay to take a break. You don't have to burn out yourself. But some days you're going to have to take action regardless of how you're feeling. And I think that's where practice come in.
Whose soccer style is a better metaphor for how you are as an entrepreneur, Ronaldo or Messi?
Ooh, Messi 100% for me.
No, I think we're a little biased on this one, but this is the thing. Like a few amount of people actually see how these guys are in practice, but both of them are extremely disciplined. They are extremely hard worker. What people see in the field is a different style of play.
Yeah.
Right. Ronaldo, he lives a little bit more on top. He does a little bit of tap-ins. He's very athletic, very technical with both sides, right and left. Messi, he's a wire. Like they'll kick him 20 times and he'll get up and keep running and shooting. Personally,
my favorite thing about Messi is that he doesn't look for the foul. He keeps playing. And if it gets called, then he'll stop. But he doesn't stop. He doesn't roll. He just plays through. And it's amazing. And for me, that's such a powerful metaphor for like not looking for the help, not looking for the out. Like, no, look, you're going to make mistakes. You're going to get tripped up. There's going to be things in the way, but you keep moving forward to the goal. And then if someone blows a whistle, you take a break.
Yeah.
But you just keep moving. So I love, for me, it's for sure Messi. So I think we're on the same page on that.
Yeah. Yeah. It kind of reminds me of that like famous inspirational video where it says like, it doesn't matter how many times you get knocked down. What matters is how many times you get knocked down and get back up on your feet. Messi's like that, man. Like they all will kick him so many times and he just keeps getting up and going. And at the end of the day, it's the same when you're in business, because if you get knocked down and then you're like, okay, where's the foul? You're probably not going to go far.
Yeah. Especially if you didn't get the foul, but now you've left the play. And that's what I see happen sometimes in entrepreneurship. Something will happen to them. And instead of just like being resilient and moving through it, they like want the world to rectify and justify and fix it for them. I'm like, it's not going to happen. Like keep moving. Because that's already in the past. That was yesterday. Right. And if you're not working towards tomorrow, it's not about not learning from the past. You have to do that, but you can't let the past control you. And I think that's been one of the biggest challenges and biggest things I've had to learn is to not let the past dictate the future, but just to learn from the past. Right. And so what are some big lessons that you guys have learned through this journey over the past, especially over the past 5 years, right? Like as you guys have gotten to where you are right now, what's something that you would look back and advise somebody else that's earlier on in their journey?
I think number one is your voice matters, right? No matter like if it's one person or that little number 0 on your Facebook Live. Like when we started, we didn't have the show. People challenged us to publish. We got a bunch of no's because they were like, where's your stuff, right? And that was a big gut punch. We had 8 business owners in front of us, referred by one of our clients that they would die for us. And they still said no because of that one reason. That would have changed everything at the time. And I was like, okay, here we go. So we had to come up with a system frictionless for us to produce, right? Because at the time it was just us. And we did a 45 days of Facebook Lives. We did not complete the 45 days. It was just 15 days. But the reason is because we ended up closing the biggest client to date at that point. And it was over a 6-figure client. It was a corporate client that came out of Facebook Live that we restreamed on LinkedIn at 11:30 p.m. at night, right? So there's literally no excuse. And I had a 4-month-old in my arms because Luca was that old at the time, right? So when people tell me, oh, nobody's watching, or what time do I publish? I don't care. Do it. One time, like we need to get the reps, or we were just talking about it. And for me, that was not paying attention to that, right? This is it. Like, this is the limit. We're going to go execute no matter what it is. I'm going to wear my t-shirt. I'm not going to dress up. Like, it's going to be me, right? We're going to wear the soccer jerseys. And that started resonating so much. And that's what created a lot of traction for us at the very beginning. We did it a second time, same thing, 17 days because we got the results, right? We did it a third time with 100 people in the challenge with us, right? What an incredible, so your voice matters. Things will happen. So start publishing. That for me, that's what changed everything. And that what led to the show and the relationships that we have today.
Yeah. My personal one has been, and it's going to sound super obvious, but is action, right? And I'm saying this because I'm a dreamer. I love to just live in the clouds. I love to read, learn, shiny object syndrome all the time. Oh, look at this PDF, look at that course. I want to learn all the time. And that feels like I'm doing something. But guess what? When you are having all these ideas, as great as they are, without action, like they're not going to get anywhere. So that is something that I've been working really hard. Like, even though we took action to a certain level, in the previous years, I would say between last year and this year is something that I've been trying to be more conscious. Like, okay, I still love to be in the clouds sometimes, just learning and doing my thing. But there's a lot of times that I'm going to be like, okay, focus time. I have to do this because if not, you're not going to get anywhere.
Right. And that's the Gary Vee thing, right? Feet in the dirt, head in the clouds. Can't be one or the other. Have to find the balance. Luis, it's been great having you guys on the show. Please, everyone, go check them out at Bizbros Co. on Instagram or at contentisprofit.com. And to all my biz ninjas, wherever you are listening, it's your turn to go out and do something.
Thank you for listening to Biz Ninja Entrepreneur Radio with Tyler Jorgensen. Please make sure to subscribe so you're first to hear new interviews and episodes. If you found this podcast to be valuable, please share it with a friend. Don't forget to visit our online dojo at bizninja.com to claim your reward for listening to the show.